Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Kim King, and today we're going to do some real simple home improvements for you. So hang on and we're going to get right into it. Action.
Hey, so what we're going to do today is something pretty much every homeowner can do, but you have to be very careful doing it. So we're going to change out an outlet just because we want to have a better, more up-to-date outlet. So right down here, here's our existing outlet. It's got some paint on it. It's been, a couple years here, and it's called a duplex outlet. You still get them today. They're just not that fancy looking. And what we're going to do is replace it with a Decora outlet, just because they look a little bit nicer. Any little thing to improve a look. A little bit nicer.
Much nicer.
Yeah. So first thing we're going to do, and this is pretty much all the tools you would need. Some you probably don't even need, but just an example. First and most important, something to test the power with. And I'll show you these in a minute. Definitely will need a screwdriver, both a flathead and a Phillips. This particular screwdriver has both on it. Possibly you might need what's called a side cutter or your basic electrician. This is the #1 electrician's tool out there. A lot of electricians even call it a hammer, as do I. Maybe a pair of needle nose, maybe not. Maybe a pair of side cutters, maybe not. All depends on the shape of the condition of the wiring. So first of all, we're going to check if this is wired correctly. This little device here, basically a plug-in circuit tester, it shows us that the circuit is okay. If this were miswired, or if there were an issue where, say, the ground wasn't on the neutral had an issue with the line, and we'll go over those, we would be getting a different combination of lights, or maybe no lights at all. Fortunately, all that's printed right there for you. Very simple tool, very inexpensive. If you have a house, you should probably have one of these. It's worth the like $10 that they cost. Next step up, this is a basically a voltage tester, just to show if there is voltage. It's not going to give you an exact reading, but it's going to show you, hey, be careful. And you don't have to go through all that trouble there. What I can do here, you see, let me change it. Okay, see that slow beeping?
Yeah.
See that fast beeping?
Yes.
That is the neutral side.
Okay.
That's the line. What that means is, fancy little light on there too. I'm hitting the wrong button. I'm hitting the light button. I gotta hold it till it turns off. Neutral is, call it a return. This is alternating current. Line, that's the hot wire. That's sending electricity to the system. Ground's kind of like an overflow failsafe. Too much voltage comes through, the ground is supposed to act as a voltage release. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But any newer home, and my newer, I mean anything from 1985 to today, is supposed to have that. Then you have a multimeter. Probably not going to need this unless you want to get fancy. And this is actually going to show us exact voltages. So my neutral, my line, the reading. You're usually going to get anywhere, it's 120 volts, which is standard coming through. I know it says 124, and you see these things bouncing up and down. 123. It's alternating current. That's how it works. Your most common reading is 122. See how it's getting there? That's your most common reading. Anyways, 120 is the standard. It's kind of like with your internet speeds. Sometimes it's 50, sometimes it's 56, sometimes it's actually what you're paying for and you're hitting 600. You never know. Anyways, next step is we are going to turn off the breaker. Now, okay, I'm pretty sure everybody knows what this is. You all have them. You probably maybe opened them up, maybe not. Anyways, this is your breaker panel. All your power is coming into the house from above. This one has a master cutoff. Not all do, but this one does. I can hit that switch, all the power is gone to the entire house. But we don't want to do that. We're just working on one spot. Now, unfortunately, this home had nothing labeled except for oven, AC, RV. All of the rest of this we're slowly figuring out and making note of it. There was no room to write on here what actually the breaker was for that particular outlet. So we tested it, figured out which one it was. And no, it's not a master bed outlet. It's 23A. Why is it 23A? Go over here. 23A, B. All right.
Oh, so A is the one on top.
Top,
Okay.
bottom. There's a 20 amp breaker, 30 amp breaker split. 30 amp is a dual breaker. This goes to an air conditioning unit, or it goes to an oven, or it goes to a generator, many different things it would go to, but your outlets are going to be either 20s or 15s. All right, so 23A, we hit that. Let's go check and make sure it's off.
Go.
Okay, power's off. Do we need to test the top one? No, we don't need to test the top one. The circuit is off. We know that. So what we're dealing with here, you could use a flathead or a Phillips or even a square head, which we don't have right with us right now. So we're just going to use a Phillips. The power's off. We still want to be gentle with it. If you notice on the back here, these little plastic tabs keep the screws from falling completely out.
Oh, nice.
Now, normally your line screws are going to be brass. See that? Brass. But these are not. See?
Is that a new thing?
Nope.
Oh.
It's just a cheap outlet.
Oh. We don't want cheap outlets.
No, we don't want cheap outlets. Now, we do know that your smaller plug is your line, your larger plug is your neutral. You know, if you ever notice on your plugs, you'll see that. That's a newer thing. Plugs that don't have that, they're non-polarity. They have no polarization. They don't follow polarity rules. Doesn't matter. Don't need to know that right now. So what I'm going to do here, get this guy off. And whoever wired this went through the extra trouble of using these screw down terminals on the side, which usually you're only going to use those for a larger gauge wire. This gauge wire here would be perfectly fine to go into the plugins on the back. We'll have to address that. And I'll show you what that is. Oh, well, look, it doesn't have them. That's why they didn't do it. See these little holes in the back? Right here and there, here and there.
Huh.
This wire, I'll straighten it out. Cut to the appropriate length, which is approximately 1/4 inch-ish. We'll go right in here with a little bit of effort. And look at that. It doesn't come out. That way you're not exposing the screw. Now you can screw it down as well. You don't have to. I like to close these off once I've done that, just because I don't like them sticking out. And you may ask, hey, why are there 2 screws on there when you only need 1? Well, this is the end of a line circuit. That means that the wire is hitting other outlets before it gets here. So it's going to go around the room we're in, and then boom, it ends here. What you'd find at the other outlets are 2 of these 3 wires. And this is actually called a 2-wire Romex. You may ask, but I see 3. The ground is not considered a wire. It's just considered a ground, even though it's a wire. Don't ask, I don't know. Anyhow, if we had a middle of the circuit outlet and there was another line going out of here, we would be screwing into here or plugging into here for the incoming. Actually, it doesn't matter, either one, as long as you keep it consistent. And then here we would be going for the line that goes to the next outlet, either to the screw or pushing it in the back like that. Doesn't matter again. And whether you did that to the top or the bottom, as long as it's the same wire going into the top or going into the bottom and the same one going out, either top or bottom, it doesn't matter. So again, I'm going to go ahead and tighten these guys down here. There's one more thing I'm seeing here that I will bring up. If you ever have come across an outlet that works off of a switch, so you have a lamp plugged into this outlet and there's a switch on the wall. Socks. Punchy. And there's a switch on the wall, and you hit that switch, it turns the light on or off. Well, that is what's called a half hot. This little clip right here, you could take one of these guys, you could cut that clip off, cut it off there, make sure it's separated, not touching, you know, you completely got it off. Then your line coming from the breaker panel would come in, and it would be split to one outlet, either the top, bottom. The line from the breaker panel going to the switch on the wall, and then from the switch on the wall, another line coming into here. So you would see 2 lines coming in, one from the panel, one from the switch. You would put the switch on whichever top or bottom that you wanted, and you plug the lamp into that top or bottom, whichever you chose. Then when you hit the switch on the wall, the lamp goes on or off. It's hence called half hot. You'll usually see them upside down. Yes, there is a right side up and an upside down. This is upside down. This is right side up. All right, so this wire conveniently trimmed itself back to just about where we needed when it broke off. So again, we will simply just, oops, wrong one. Do that. Pop it in. This is going into the neutral side. Push it in there. Oh, I may have to turn that back a little bit more. It didn't catch. Very gently. I'm spinning this around very gently. I'm not squeezing it. I don't want to nick or cut the wire. I just want to get the insulation off of it. Push it in. There, hear that? Yeah, you heard it. The ground always screws down. I like to get my ground, I like to separate my wires in this box so that it is easy to work with. What I'll do here, manipulate this wire a little bit. Now I'm going to go ahead and get this guy. This always takes a little bit of work. There we go. Here, what I'm going to do, this is why I always have needle nose with me, it just makes this easier. I like to pinch that together just to make it clean. Now what you'll see here, there's little tabs on the side here to keep the wire in the holder. As I screw that down, I'll have to manipulate this just a little bit more. There we go. It's getting in there. Okay, nice and tight. There, so see that? How it's keeping it inside of its little holster here. Now, you say, how do you get all of that wire back in there? Well, you have to be a little bit thoughtful about it. I go up, I come down, bend it, I go back up again, I give this a little turn. This is a easily manipulated gauge wire. Some of the bigger ones are such a pain. All right, so now we're simply going to line up with our screw here. Hold that steady. We're going to line up with this one here. I can feel it with my finger, and I look behind it a little bit. Get that sucker in there. This guy over here. Get them both pretty close. We want to make sure it's flat. We want to make sure it's level, just so it doesn't look aesthetically bad. Doesn't affect the functionality of it at all. Once I get to where it's almost tight, squeeze over here. And again, this is just an aesthetic thing. You don't have to do it, but hey, why not? There's our level line. See how we can just kind of bump it a little. There you go. And it should stay relatively level while we screw it in. Just hold it tightly so it doesn't move while I'm doing it. And you don't want to over tighten these either. There's no need to. Now let's just double check that. Yeah, still looks good. You can still at this point wiggle this around if you need to, but we're good there. And then the last thing we're going to do is put our pretty little Decora cover plate up there. Here's where you need the flat head side. Oh, look at that.
Oh.
Here's what I always do, so because these screws are so tiny, this makes it much easier to keep them on your screw driver. Oh, and they screw into these portions of the outlet here and here.
Okay.
Hold that in. Line it up. And these things wiggle. So that's why I was holding it with my finger. This thing wiggles all around. It'll catch. This can sometimes be the most difficult. There it goes. Part of putting the plates together. One there. If you notice, I am stopping when it is straight up and down. Actually, I will tighten that one down there a little bit more. Now, this is a good way of knowing if someone knew what they were doing. In other words, a professional, or at least someone who paid attention, had done work on your electrical. If you come across a screw that's like that, not professional. If you come across a screw that's like that, but this is what's called clocking. You clock your screws. That way we know that someone who knows what they were doing did it. That's pretty much it. Last thing is we pop this in here. We'll go hit the breaker. You stay here and watch. I will kick it on and we'll know that it's good. Hooray! Thank you so much. This has been Cooking with Kim. No, wait.
No.
That's tomorrow. All right. Bye, y'all.
Thanks. It was so glad y'all could be here for this one. If you liked it, if it was informative and helpful, please thumbs it up, hit like, subscribe, give me your comments. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thumbs it up.
Bye.